And now onto the main event this morning. So as you'll know, our theme for December is biophilia. Biophilia is the idea that the nature around us is reflective of the nature that's within us. And it's about appreciating living things and bringing the outdoors inside. So whether you live in the middle of the countryside surrounded by forests and fields, or you live in an urban flat with your treasured houseplant collection, I'm definitely in that boat. There are loads and loads of different ways that we can express our biophilia. And this month's theme was chosen by our Dusseldorf chapter and is illustrated beautifully here by artist Lara Paulison. So that leads me on to introducing our speaker for this morning, John Sinclair of Craigie's Farm. John will be speaking about his own experiences as a farmer and a business owner, and his talk is titled The Value of Returning to Our Roots. So without further ado, please give a very warm welcome to our speaker this month, John Sinclair. Thank you, John. I will stop sharing my screen and let you jump on.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us along. I'm John Sinclair from Craigie Farm. So we're really lucky at Craigie Farm because we're out in the countryside, but yet we're only 20 minutes to the centre of Edinburgh. So I suppose we have the best of both worlds. So Craigie's Farm, for those that don't know the business, we're a diversified agricultural business that's all about food that's as fresh and as local as it can be. We've got a number of different sides to the business. So we've got jam making, the shop, the cafe, the growing part of the business, the leisure side, the learning side. So there's lots and lots of different sides to Craigie's. We've been established for over 60 years, and we've seen significant diversification in the last 15. Currently, our turnover is about 2.5 million, and we employ 50 members of staff. And we're projecting to grow this to over 5 million and employ at least 80 members of staff by 2025. So what is biophilia? Just bring on my presentation. There we go. Being a farmer, English isn't one of my strong points. So, to be honest, when I got asked to do this talk, as normal, I just said yes. And then I started looking into it and sort of thinking, God, what is biophilia? So, I did a little bit of research straight onto Google, and basically found out that it's a human relationship with nature and countryside. So I started then sort of thinking, well, actually, that is really kind of, Craigie's is all about biophilia, and that's kind of really what our core value is. So we might be looking at rewriting the values and just communicating that better to the team. But from biophilia, it became clear to me that there was many kind of health benefits. So not just physical health, but mental health, financial benefits. So as a business, if we are kind of looking to sell this idea, then that's really what the majority of what we do is all about. So there's financial benefits in there, not only just for businesses like me, but also for people being more self-sustainable, being leading a greener lifestyle as well. We'd all have financial benefits. And then of course there's educational benefits as well. So a lot of what we do at Craigie's is educational. But I think at the root of it, our love of nature is really kind of ingrained in all of us, just at different levels. So Craigie's and biophilia. Well, there's a historic connection to the land. I think if we go back sort of 20, 30 years ago, the majority of you probably have had a connection to the land, whether that be through an aunt or an uncle that would maybe help with the farmer with potato harvest or fruit harvest. But through the last sort of 20 years, mechanisation has really taken over on the land. So there's very, very little requirement for people to come onto the land and harvest crops. So in the last sort of 20 years, your population has become really sort of detached from how food's produced and from the countryside. which is a big problem for farmers, and I think it's probably a big problem for society as well. We've lost that connection. Just, I thought I'd put this next slide in here. It's a sort of highlight of my WRI talks, and it's a kind of history of the Sinclair family, but I won't bore you for too long. But our historic connection to the land goes back to the 1800s, when my great-grandfather, George, down the bottom left there, decided that farming was a route that he wanted to take. His father was a sawmiller, but all that George ever wanted to do was to work on farms. And George ended up farm manager for Lord Rothschild down in the south of England. And it's whilst working there that he met with Lord Rosebery, who was Prime Minister at the time. And Lord Rosebery wanted a herd of Aberdeen Angus cattle at Dalmeny Estate, just outside Edinburgh. So he headhunted George, and George came to Dalmeny in 1892. And really from there, his son, my grandfather Jack, took over in 1931 as farm manager. I never knew my grandfather, but every picture of him has a picture of a cigarette hanging from his lower lip. But when he died in 1959, my father and mother actually had to go and live in South Queensferry for a short period. But then he was lucky to get the tenancy of a farm just outside South Queensferry, and then on to West Craigie in 1966. When my father died in 1995, my wife Kirsty and myself took over, and we're lucky to have two kids, so George and Sophie, who are both really interested in the farm. George has just come back from travelling and is kind of starting to carve his own route in agriculture, whilst helping out at home a little bit. And Sophie is a professional curler, but has worked in all areas of the business when she's not curling. So they've both been told that they've got until 2028 to decide whether they want to come back to the business or whether basically to allow me to spend more time in the golf course or doing other things. There's also the kind of the employment sort of side of the benefits from this. I mean, I've got a really good video I'm just going to show you here about Matthew, who's had a challenging time through school, a lot of learning difficulties, but then when he got the opportunity to come and work at Craigie's on an apprenticeship and working closer with nature, it really helped carve his route and which way he was going to go. So hopefully this little video will work.
My name is Matthew Lane. I'm on an apprenticeship at Craigie Farm. And that's favourite Miss Piggy and Pete. I'm always doing outdoor stuff, like I've got a good mountain bike and I always go out on my bike and stuff. So working on the farm, it's like being outside every day. Like I could never do an office job. That's just not the type of person that I am. So doing like outdoor rural sort of work fits me perfectly. Well, when I left school, I went on a land-based industries course. And then after that, I got referred to a work experience course. And that got me the placement here. So I was here for 9 weeks doing voluntary work. And then they must have liked how I was working and stuff. So that led into my apprenticeship. And I've been here ever since. See? Sits on all the eggs. Like every day is totally different. Like when I come in the morning, you don't actually know what you're going to be doing that day. You just need to talk to the manager and then you find out. But every day, feeding the animals, that's definite every morning. And then after that, it would be maybe going to harvest or going to prune apple trees or going to harvest veg in the summer, covering tunnels. So it's all really varied. Whoa, that's a bit greedy. My favourite part in the job that I do is probably working with animals. With animals that stay on the farm, you get like a sort of good connection with them. So they get to know you. So say I'm feeding the pigs in the morning, they would all run up to me and like, they know who I am and all that. And it gives you a sort of good feeling. Working at the farm has probably been the best thing I've done so far in my life. The school wasn't that good for me, because obviously I've got learning difficulties and stuff, but working here has really brought on my confidence. Like what I want to do is I just want to get loads of different skills, and then that opens up my options for like a career that I want to do. But I do want to stay in agriculture, definitely.
So that was Matthew's story. So it was really quite tough after his year's apprenticeship. We pushed him out, because we realised it was the best thing for him to then continue on and go to local college and do a block release and to further his career. He didn't thank me for it at the time, but he's really doing well, and he's kind of got into learning and into studying. I think at school it was too early for him. And now he's progressing on, getting different experiences, and I think he'll go well and do well in the farming sector, which is great to see. It's one of the real kind of benefits of the job that we do. Also, sort of social enterprise. At Craigie's, we've got Craigie's Education and Environment Project, which over the years has kind of evolved from working from people in the criminal justice system. I've had various challenges and kind of people that have made kind of the wrong choice in life, and working with growing and planting plants, and that's a great way of kind of helping these kind of issues and that they have. And also sort of education. I'm a director at the Royal Highland Agricultural Society, which we've got an education part called the Royal Highland Education Trust, which is all about getting school kids out onto farms. And there's nothing more rewarding for myself than seeing kids that have come from really deprived areas of Edinburgh, probably never been out in the countryside before, and you get warned about these little tow rags that are going to be disruptive. But actually, when the things they see and when they learn about how food's produced, butter won't melt in their mouth. So it's again, that's a really kind of rewarding part of getting people coming back to nature. There's a local side of things as well. I mean, it's one of our key values is a provenance of what we do and the locality. It's something that's always been quite strong with us. I mean, when we decided to expand the shop and grow it 15 years ago, we did a customer survey where we asked a couple of questions. I mean, this one was one of the key ones that's really forged the way we move forward. When our customers made it quite clear that they're really interested in fresh and local products above anything else. And this was another one that's maybe not quite so relevant, but coffee was the question that kind of prompted us to open a cafe sort of 15 years ago. So do we kind of meet our local credentials at Craigie's? Well, yeah, I mean, 40% of what we sell is our own produce or made on site. 44% is Scottish. We get some products from south of the border, and some European products, which I don't know if that might change shortly. And then when we can't get our bananas from Fife, then we get them from further afield. Pick your own. I mean, probably the majority of people that know Craigie's will probably know it for pick your own, whether it be picking pumpkins or picking strawberries. It's certainly something that's that we've done for quite a long time now. So again, if you've not been out to Craigie's to pick your own, we've got another little video. Now, I kind of look at that, and you kind of realise that picking the fruit or the experience out at Craigie's it's not really about the food. The food is a byproduct of the kind of the day in the countryside, and I think that's something that I realised probably about 10, 15 years ago, when there used to be about 12 pick your own farms that used to be around about the outskirts of Edinburgh. And they were all just kind of slowly closing down, as they were kind of allowing customers in to have a fantastic day, and the customers were basically kind of having a really good feed, a really fantastic day, and then you're walking out past the pay station and just paying the farmer a pittance for that fantastic day's experience. No one was at fault. That was just kind of how it had developed. And the value of food has become a lot less important. As the supermarket shelves are a lot fuller. If you go back sort of 40, 50 years ago, when people were coming out to pick their own fruit, they would be going to pick fruit to fill the freezer, to make jam, basically to store up food for through the winter time. So it became quite clear that in latter years that it wasn't about the food, it was about customers just wanting to come out for a fantastic day in the countryside and get closer to nature. So that's when we started to kind of look at, right, well, okay, let's put in a minimum spend system in place so that those customers that want to come out, have a great day, they don't feel guilty about going away and not having spent a lot of money on fruit. And that's worked really well, and it's basically a system that's been adopted from the south of England right up to north of Scotland, and that's been rolled out into not just strawberries but apples and pumpkins and lots of different sort of commodities that we do. I mean, we quite often, at pumpkins time, if you're coming out here, pumpkin's probably going to cost probably £6 to £12, depending on the size of the pumpkin. And occasionally I'll get some customers asking me that I can get a pumpkin at Tesco's for £1. And I'll say to them, if it's just a pumpkin you want, go to Tesco's. But if you want to come out with the kids get covered in mud, get some pictures, come into the cafe, get hot chocolate, and a bite to eat and kind of make a day of it, then that's when you want to come to Craigie's. So it's just kind of making sure that's kind of dressed up in the right way. So going 2021 and beyond, I'm never been known to like standing still and being happy with what I'm doing. So most of our kind of expansions and kind of development over the last number of years has been very kind of unplanned, and just kind of I'll wake up one morning and think, oh, quite fancy doing this, and we'll just go ahead and do that. Whereas it became clear that probably wasn't going to be the best plan going forward as we were kind of getting bigger and bigger. So we brought in a guy that does master planning a couple of years ago, and paid him a fortune, and ended up with this very creative kind of map with lots of squiggly lines all over it, which initially I kind of, not being a creative kind of person, kind of thought, well, what have I got myself into here? But actually, as I kind of come back to it and look at it, it's helping me kind of form ideas and helping the team kind of realise the direction that we're going in. So we've got a woodland area behind us. So the potential there for an adventure experience zone. There's a really nice derelict quarry that's currently just going to be starting to get a kind of infill done on it. So what are the opportunities there once that opens up? Is there kind of some kind of glamping or further kind of more extreme kind of experience there? and then how that's connected to the farm with the pick your own and everything like that. So the current stage that we're going through at the moment is, might have seen this shed in Matthew's video. It's just an old farm shed, well, not an old farm shed, it went up in the 1980s, but one that's been through different kind of forms, from being a cattle shed to a potato shed to basically a junk store. So we're currently developing this into a play barn, a new cafe. So that was taken last week. And this is kind of the artist's impressions of what we're going to be getting to. So hopefully should be opening in 2021. Be an amazing kind of animal attraction alongside it as well. The play equipment, it's not your kind of standard kind of soft play type equipment. So we're going very much for sort of premium end of the market. It's a company in Germany that make the equipment. So their kind of mantra is as much play value as possible, as much safety as necessary. So I think, there's been a generation that's been brought up when kids have been playing that, they can run into things as fast as they want and they'll just bounce, or if they fall, they're wrapped up in cotton wool. Whereas Ricketer Play, they design all their equipment with an appropriate level of risk. So like, certainly when I grew up as a kid, if I climbed up a tree and fell down and hurt my arm, I would be thinking, right, I'm not going to go as high the next time. And I think that's a really kind of important kind of part of growing up and learning. You can see there's an outside element as well, where there's a bit of sand and water, and this is the water part of the attraction, which I think parents will love when their kids come back all covered in sand and all wet and cold. So that's just kind of a bit of an overview of what my thoughts are and how Craigie's are in the connection to biophilia and the importance of it. But more than happy to answer any questions or expand on any points if anyone wishes.
Amazing. Thank you, first of all, John. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's sitting here feeling incredibly inspired and enlightened by that story. As Kat has just said in the chat, virtual claps. Yeah, thank you for that from your. What an incredible, interesting his family history, and kind of looking forward to where Craigie's is going to be in the next few years. I was really struck there just at the end when you said that you didn't consider yourself to be a creative, but actually I feel like what you've just shown there is an incredibly creative approach to farming, but also to the community aspect of it. And I really loved what you were saying about the fact that it's more than just food. It's about the experience, and that in turn enriches and nourishes people in a different way. So yeah, thank you so much. And I can see in the chat that we've got some questions. Molly, do you want to give us some questions for our brilliant community?
Yes. We'll start off with this one from Isabel. She said, how do you start the introduction process to farming for people who have never been involved in any farming or growing practices? Where do they start?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of have a fairly sort of structured visit when we bring the school kids on to farm. We do all the school visits through REP because they kind of deal with all the health and safety side of things and the kind of the speaking to the school beforehand. So generally speaking, there'll be quite a big element of kind of, well, what the kids learning about in school. So what are their kind of expectations and what they want to learn more about, and then we'll tailor the visit around about that. But I like to be as honest as possible, and I think it's really important that people know where their food comes from. And we're not commercial livestock farmers, but we do have some livestock that will kind of rear in a method that's not uncommon on a commercial scale farm. And then we try and communicate to customers on why the pigs are perhaps maybe in a nice big straw court and not out in a field foraging around. We kind of bring into about the climate and how pigs don't like the cold, and that also they're not as productive when they're outside. So the main aim for these pigs being here is for food production, and we'll have a good talk around about that, and what they could end up as. And usually it's the primary school kids that just really love that. When you ask a 7-year-old, what the various items of food that come from a pig, they're really enthusiastic and really keen on it, and that kind of emotional kind of link to this animal has not kind of developed at that stage. Whereas if you get a group of senior 5 Mary Erskine girls out in the farm at the other end of the scale, then that's generally when you get all the tears, and the kind of emotional side is sort of kicked in by that age. So I think it's really important, if people are deciding what to eat, that they understand how that is produced, whether that be meat items or whether it be fruit and veg, and I think we've become so detached from that. We'll go and buy products in the supermarket, and there'll be certain indicators that people will trust, like a little red tractor, or it's organic, but maybe not just fully understand the full implications that have gone into that. Whereas you're actually coming out to the farm, seeing the farmer that's growing it, looking at them in the eye, and you build up that element of trust that the food that person's produced for you is safe and going to be done in the appropriate way.
I guess it's almost like a kind of baptism of fire, that it's like, right, this is the worst it's going to be. So if you're cool with that, then you can work on a farm. Yeah. And also, just to pick up on a little thing that you said there, I had no idea that pigs didn't like the cold. That is a nugget of information I did not know. I'm really pleased I know that. We've got another question here from Alex. We've got one saying, I love Matthew's story. So that was the first video, for anyone who can't remember that. Love Matthew's story. Are there volunteer opportunities for people in full-time jobs who just want to help out for short durations?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we get quite a lot of requests for. We'll generally, the Craigie's Education and Environment Project is a kind of a separate kind of standalone project that I've kind of set up, but then handed over to a local group to try and grow and move forward. On the commercial side of the farm, it's sort of volunteering is challenging, because we are running a business as well, and for example, we get quite a lot of requests from vet students wanting to come out and work with animals, because of the number of animals we have. Generally, kind of farm guys will start at 7 o'clock, and they'll attend to the animals first before the members of the public come on the site. So they're finished by kind of 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then they're off doing other stuff out in the farm. So generally, if anyone's wanting to volunteer, we'll sort of put them in the direction of the Craigie's Education Environment Project. Would be where we would try and link up with.
Excellent. And just if people are interested and they're listening, is that on the website, or where can people find that information? Where's best to get that?
Yeah, best to email myself at john@craigies.co.uk, and I would forward that on to the volunteers that run the charity.
Excellent. I'm just popping that in the chat. john@craigies.co.uk. That's nice and easy to remember. So let me I'm going to have to scroll back up again and find where we got to with the questions. We've got lots of people kind of casting their minds back and having fond memories of picking berries as children, in gardens and in farms. Our next question that we have here is from Claire. She asks, what's your vision for the future of the farm? I'm a farmer daughter myself and know that farming, in brackets without diversification, is a tough gig. What do you hope for your kids?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that they'll both sort of come home to work in some form or another. We've got quite a diverse business now, Farming is really bad for succession planning, and I've got friends who their kids are kind of coming up to an age where they should be sort of starting to run the business, but it's still the grandfather that's writing the checks. I suppose I was always really lucky in the fact that my father sort of made it clear to me from quite an early age that when I reached the age of 30, he would be 60, and he was planning to hand over at that point. He never made it to 60, but I was well prepared to take over the business, and I've said the same to both my kids. And that I think that life is very much like a curve. You start off with masses of enthusiasm. As you get older, that enthusiasm does kind of dwindle. But you start off with no experience, and as you kind of get older and wiser, your experience increases. So it's just trying to catch that sweet spot in the middle where you've got the right amount of experience and the right amount of enthusiasm that you can still drive things forward. So so if the what was the first part of the question again, sorry?
What's your vision for the future of the farm?
Vision for the future. Yeah, I mean, I don't see a future for commercial farming on small farms. I mean, West Craigie was a 250-acre farm, and just not commercially viable to farm it conventionally. Because of our diversifications, we've actually handed 150 acres back to our landlord because that 150 acres was getting used to kind of grow commodity crops like grain and wheat and potatoes that we couldn't add any value to. So I think that farms, there'll be two sides of things. There's still a big drive for cheap food. So I think the commercial farms that are producing food will get bigger and bigger. Unless there's a real change in food being valued more by the consumer, and accepting that they've got to pay for what they get. But equally on the other side, I think there'll be masses of opportunities for businesses like ourselves that want to try and benefit as much as possible from people wanting to become connected to their food and learn more about how their food's produced. So I think the gap will just get wider.
Fantastic. I love that, the idea of the curve of enthusiasm versus experience. I think that's brilliant. I really want to visualize that and use it kind of to, I don't know, just push us forward. It's great. This is a nice question. What's your favorite time of year on the farm and why?
I suppose in one of the chat rooms I kind of mentioned Christmas Day as probably, especially if it's a white Christmas. I've got memories of waking up on Christmas Day. It will generally now be the first day that the business will be closed for since the previous sort of festive period. So just kind of getting up nice and early, going out to have a look at the livestock, and no planes coming in. I mean, the no planes sounds we've actually got quite used to that over lockdown. But the noise of traffic on the motorway is you just can't hear it. And then if you get a really nice sort of crisp, quiet morning, you might hear the noise of the tractor starting up on the neighbouring farm. So I think that's probably to me is the best time of year. That
sounds absolutely idyllic.
That's a kind of funny side of the day, but then the other side is on a summer's morning when you get up and you've got 1,200 people that are going to be coming through and the tills are chinging. That's quite a good feeling as well.
Okay. And the sun will help as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you're lucky because Christmas is very soon, so you'll get to experience that wonderful day. Rebecca, have we got time for one more question? I've got a goodie here.
Yeah, let's go one more, Molly.
Nice one. So this is from Phil Adams. So he's saying the most visible signs of climate change tend to be elsewhere, melting glaciers, wildfires, storms, and so on. And I guess that's kind of touching on what we see on the news, and it's very kind of extreme and scary. But he's asking, do you as a farmer in Scotland who's worked the land over many years see any impacts here? And also asks, how important is local self-sufficiency and food supply going to be?
Yeah, no, I'm glad the question went that way, because I did think it was going to go into the kind of knocking farmers for the climate change, sort of. But I personally haven't really noticed any difference. I think farmers that are kind of working with the seasons, and realise and appreciate that each year is different, and whilst we don't get extremes that some parts of the world get, there's always going to be a variation, and you're always going to get differences from one year to another. And I suppose farmers just kind of are used to kind of adapting and changing that. But I think whilst farmers do kind of get blamed a lot for climate change, I think that we're also kind of putting a lot into how we do things to try and cut climate change down. So, for example, soft fruit. When I started off out of college, we were growing strawberries outside. The season lasted from kind of beginning of July to early August. So it was a 5-6 week season. Whereas the rest of the year, supermarkets were flying strawberries in from California, Spain, wherever in the world, bringing them in chilled really quickly, just to try and keep them as fresh as possible. So now, I mean, you can get Scottish strawberries from we don't do it, but from some farms in Scotland are starting to crop strawberries in March, April, and we'll be cropping their crop at the moment right through until kind of December. And that's just with different kind of growing techniques of polytunnels and covering the plants with fleece and things like that we've adopted to sort of fulfill that demand, but yet not have to fly your produce in from the other side of the world. So I think one of the good things about the COVID pandemic has been it has brought people back to kind of valuing what's on their doorstep a lot more, and realizing that local is important, and supporting local businesses, and just trying to find out a little bit more about where their food comes from has really helped kind of reset a lot of people, and hopefully that'll be one of the good things that will come out of this horrible pandemic.
Totally. And as well, I could see that you're a little bit you thought the question was going to go one way and it went another way. But I guess the thing is that you can blame people and you can blame kind of certain things, but that's where the solutions lie as well. So like you're saying, like rather than flying fruit in from other countries, like there's these new kind of technologies and methods that are used. And I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but there's nothing better than a good in-season Scottish strawberry. Like if you have them from flown over, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Nothing better than a good Scottish strawberry. Nice one. Rebecca, I think, is that us all done with the questions? That's us out of time there, but there was lots of really good ones. I could have kept going, but fantastic.
Lovely. Yeah, again, thank you, John, for those insights, and thank you to everybody for your questions. Yeah, all that really remains to say this morning is a huge thank you to all of you in the Creative Mornings Edinburgh community. It has been a wild year, I'm sure you'll all agree. But it's been lovely to see your faces every month and to hear your amazing questions, and also a huge thank you to all our speakers this year. Thank you to John for your December talk on biophilia. And yeah, as we close today, on behalf of the rest of the Creative Mornings Edinburgh team, have a very safe, peaceful, restful, festive season. And we really look forward to seeing you in January. So a Merry Christmas and all that jazz, and a very Happy New Year to you all. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon.